We dish out romance and chaos spicier than street food chot. Messy, addictive, and gone before you know it. Warning: may cause sudden snort laughs, swoony sighs, and the urge to stalk your crush's playlist. Hit subscribe. It's the only guilty pleasure that comes with 0 calories. Now buckle up for the ride at Novella Station. The name this story is Swipe Right for Disaster. Maya had 3 rules for surviving modern dating. Never trust a profile picture with sunglasses, never agree to coffee at my place, and absolutely never, under any circumstances, let her mom set her up. So naturally, fate decided to break all 3 rules in one morning. It started with a spilled latte at Bean Scene Cafe, a frantic scramble for napkins, and, because the universe has a sense of humor, an accidental phone swap with the grumpiest guy in line. He muttered something about bug fixes and user errors before storming out, leaving Maya clutching a phone that wasn't hers and buzzing with notifications from women she'd never met. She sighed. Well, this should be fun. By the time Maya realized she had the wrong phone, she was already knee-deep in a text thread with someone named YogaBabe92, who was demanding to know why he hadn't shown up for goat yoga. She typed back, "Because I don't even like goats?" That's when the cafe door slammed open. In stormed Mr. Grumpy Developer, clutching her phone like it was a bomb about to detonate. His hair was slightly mussed, his shirt half untucked, and his glare could have powered the espresso machine. "You," he said, pointing at her. "You've been sabotaging my matches." Maya raised an eyebrow. "Oh, please. If your idea of romance is ghosting women mid-text, I'm doing them a public service." He blinked, thrown off by her sass. For the first time, his scowl softened into something almost amused. "Well," he said, sliding her phone across the table, "maybe you should stick to your own disasters." She grinned, handing his phone back. "Maybe I should. But admit it, you're curious what I told Yoga Babe." He hesitated, then chuckled. "Okay, fine. What did you say?" Maya leaned in, eyes sparkling. "That you don't like goats." Which, honestly, might be the most honest thing you've ever said to a woman. And just like that, the tension cracked. For the first time, they both laughed, loud enough to make the barista glance over. "I am Ethan. Maya. Nice to meet you." Next day, Maya found herself sitting across from a man who introduced himself as Brad, but with 2 Ds. She wasn't sure if that was a typo or a lifestyle choice, but either way, she was only here because Mr. Grumpy Developer, whose name, she finally learned, was Ethan, had set her up while he was with her phone and matched her this Brad, with 2 Ds. "Look," Ethan had said, standing languidly outside the cafe. "As a man, I know my own kind. I can assure you that this guy Brad with 2 Ds may be a moron, but he is not a creep." Maya had laughed and beckoned him to hand over his phone, and under his gaze, confirmed his date with YogaBabe92 and mimicked the same tone as Ethan's. "Look, as a woman, I know my own kind. I can assure you that this guy goat lady may be a moron, but she is not a gold digger." Now, here she was with Brad while Ethan was across town, nervously navigating goat yoga on her behalf, a date she selected for him. Brad with 2DS leaned in. "So what do you do?" Maya smiled sweetly. "I sabotage tech bros who don't know how to talk to women." Meanwhile, Ethan was discovering that goats had no respect for personal space. One particularly enthusiastic goat had climbed onto his back mid-pose, and the instructor was cheering. "See, even the animals love your energy." Ethan groaned. "I'm suing that phone-swapping witch for emotional damages." Back at the cafe, Maya's phone buzzed. A selfie popped up. Ethan, sweaty, covered in goat hair, grinning despite himself. The caption read, "Fine. Maybe goats aren't so bad." Maya laughed out loud, startling Brad with 2DS. And for the first time, she realized she was actually looking forward to swapping stories with Ethan later. Maya's date. Brad with 2DS turned out to be a motivational speaker who insisted on punctuating every sentence with finger guns. "So, Maya," he said, winking, "life is about winning. Are you a winner?" She sipped her latte. "Well, I'm currently losing the will to live. Does that count?" Brad laughed like she told the funniest joke in the world. Then he pulled out a laminated vision board from his backpack. Maya stared at the collage of yachts, protein shakes, and a suspiciously large photo of himself. She texted Ethan under the table, "If I don't make it out alive, tell my mom I died doing cardio." Ethan's date in the open field were rolling with goats. Meanwhile, Ethan was still trapped in goat yoga. His assigned partner, Yoga Babe 92, was a human pretzel who kept insisting he breathe through the chaos. "Relax," she said, balancing effortlessly while Ethan toppled sideways. "Dating is just like yoga. You have to bend." "Pretty sure I just broke," Ethan muttered, clutching his side. The goat from earlier trotted back, bleated loudly, and climbed onto him again. The instructor clapped. "See? Even nature approves of your progress." Ethan snapped a photo and sent it to Maya. "This goat is judging me harder than you did." Maya's phone pinged with a notification. Brad with 2DS leaned closer. "So, what's your 5-year plan?" Maya smiled sweetly. "To never see another vision board again." Her phone buzzed with Ethan's goat selfie, and she burst out laughing mid-sip, spraying coffee across Brad's laminated yacht. The Bean Scene Cafe had become their accidental neutral territory. Maya arrived first, claiming the same table where the great latte flood had occurred. When Ethan walked in, he still had a single piece of straw clinging to the shoulder of his jacket. He didn't bother with hello. He slid into the chair opposite her and placed his phone on the table with the solemnity of a detective presenting evidence. "A goat," he stated flatly. "A goat named Persephone. To be exact, tried to eat my wallet. I am now fiscally responsible for a vegan leather repair." Maya took a slow sip of her water, eyes sparkling over the rim of the glass. "Brad with 2DS showed me his 5-year plan. It involved a franchise of cryotherapy chambers and a side hustle selling NFTs of his own aura." A bead of silence hung between them. Then, simultaneously, they both cracked. Ethan's stern expression dissolved into a reluctant grin. Maya let out the laugh she'd been stifling since the vision board. "Okay, fine," Ethan conceded, running a hand through his hair, dislodging the final piece of hay. She was intense. A human rubber band who quotes TikTok wellness trends like scripture. But he leaned forward. But she paid for her own smoothie. She was genuinely, bafflingly kind. Even when I fell into a downward-facing dog and nearly took out a whole row of yogis. Not a gold digger, just a very flexible idealist. Maya nodded, her own defensiveness melting. And Brad, she sighed the double D with exhaustion. A moron. A walking, talking LinkedIn inspirational post. But he asked for separate checks before I could, complimented my career, and his biggest sin was enthusiasm, not entitlement. Not a creep, just a passionately mediocre bro. They sat in the comfortable quiet of mutual, bewildered respect. The barista whirred the espresso machine in the background. "The problem," Maya said, tapping a fingernail on the table, "is the algorithm. Sparks matching is based on my past swipes, which were clearly made in a moment of weakness or caffeine deficiency. It thinks I want a Brad. It's sending me an army of him. And mine thinks I want a serene, goat-adjacent life coach," Ethan grumbled. "It's filtering for likes hiking and spiritual and delivering women who think chakras need realignment." Their eyes met across the table. An idea, absurd and perfect, hovered in the steam between them. "You said it outside," Maya began, a slow, mischievous smile spreading. "A man knows his own kind. You can spot a Brad from a mile away. You can also maybe spot a non-Brad." Ethan's brow furrowed, then cleared. A mirroring smirk appeared on his face. "And you instantly knew Yoga Babe 92 was harmless. You can doubtless spot the difference between spiritual and owns a profitable Etsy store selling crystal-infused socks. So the issue is the input," Maya said, her developer brain latching onto the logic flaw. "The app is sourcing from the wrong pool. It's using our flawed patterns to find matches for us." "What if," Ethan said, picking up her phone and holding it up, "we swap the source?" He then placed his own phone next to it. "What if we just swap the apps? Not the phones, the accounts. You take over my Spark. I take over yours." Maya stared at the two identical icons on the different screens. It was gloriously, brilliantly stupid. It was also the most sensible thing she'd heard all week. "You vet the men for me," she said, the plan solidifying. "Swipe right on the ones who have actual hobbies, not side hustles, who can form a sentence without using synergy or vibes. And you vet the women for me," Ethan countered. "Find the ones who've read a book published before 2020, who might enjoy a movie that doesn't have a superhero in it, who won't judge me for thinking goat yoga is a form of animal-assisted assault." A new, collaborative energy charged the space between them. The antagonism was gone, replaced by the thrilling conspiracy of co-conspirators. "It's a beta test," Maya declared, her tone turning professional. "A live, human-led A/B testing scenario. We bypass the faulty algorithm with superior organic intelligence." "We're the patch," Ethan agreed, a real, full laugh in his voice. He picked up her phone and unlocked it, handing it to her. She did the same with his. For a moment, they just held each other's devices, the final barrier swapped. "Ground rules?" Maya asked, her thumb hovering over his Spark app. "No intentionally setting me up with your crazy aunt," Ethan said. "No matching me with any of your gym buddies who call themselves Alpha," Maya countered. "Deal. Deal." They tapped the icons open. Maya's screen flooded with hopeful, smiling women. Ethan's with a grid of posed, potential brats. "Okay, grumpy," Maya said, already scrolling with a critical eye. "Let's find you a woman who owns fewer than 5 crystals." "All right, saboteur," Ethan said, squinting at a profile. "Let's find you a man who knows that a vision board should exist in your head, not laminated in your backpack." And as they began to swipe, each for the other, a strange and hilarious kind of digital trust fall, they both knew, without saying it, that this was already infinitely more interesting than any date either app had ever provided. Now it's time for a short promo. At Novella Station, we don't do meat cuties. We do meat catastrophes, and they're way more fun. Subscribe for more such original stories. Chapter 2. A few days late, Maya and Ethan were on their next dates with each other choices. Maya's next date was supposed to be a casual dinner. Instead, she found herself at a vegan tasting menu where the chef personally explained every dish in interpretive dance. "Tonight," the chef whispered dramatically, "we begin with air-fried kale tears." Maya stared at the plate. "Did you just serve me sadness?" Her date, a self-proclaimed culinary influencer, filmed every bite while narrating. "This is transcendent. Kale has never spoken to me like this." Maya texted Ethan, "If Kale starts talking to me, I'm suing." Meanwhile, Ethan had been roped into karaoke night with one of Maya's choices, a woman who claimed singing was her love language. "Don't worry," she said, dragging him on stage. "We'll duet Endless Love." Ethan gripped the mic like it was a hostage situation. "I don't sing." The music started anyway. His voice cracked on the first note, the crowd winced, and the DJ shouted, "Give it up for the brave guy." Ethan texted Maya mid-song. "This is cruel and unusual punishment. Send help." Maya's influencer date insisted she try the signature dessert, a chia seed pudding shaped like a lotus flower. He leaned in, camera rolling. "Say something profound for my followers." Maya smiled sweetly. "Sure. Life's too short to eat pudding that looks like a houseplant." The influencer gasped. "You're canceled." Meanwhile, Ethan, too, was experiencing a new kind of hell. A hell with karaoke machines. On stage, his duet partner belted out the chorus while Ethan mumbled backup like a malfunctioning robot. The crowd roared with laughter. Someone shouted, "Marry her already." Ethan groaned, texting Maya, "Apparently I'm engaged now." To karaoke. The air in the Bean Scene Cafe was thick with the scent of roasted beans and shared trauma. Maya slumped into her usual chair, her eyes haunted. Ethan arrived a moment later, moving with the stiff, shell-shocked gait of a man who had just survived a war zone, specifically a karaoke bar. They stared at each other for a long moment. "Kale," Maya whispered, her voice hollow. "Tears." Ethan closed his eyes briefly. "Lionel Richie. Publicly. He filmed me," she continued, laying her palms flat on the table as if to steady herself. "He wanted me to say something profound about chia pudding shaped like a lotus. I told him it looked like a houseplant. He canceled me." to his 12,000 followers. A flicker of a smile touched Ethan's exhausted face. That's my saboteur. He took a slow breath. My date's love language is screeching off-key ballads. We're apparently engaged. The entire bar signed a napkin as a witness. Maya finally looked at him, the ghost of her usual spark returning. Did you get a ring at least? A free shot of well whiskey. It felt more like a settlement. They fell into a companionable silence, the kind forged in shared, bizarre suffering. Maya fiddled with a sugar packet. Okay. Ethan sighed, leaning forward. Let's do the postmortem. Culinary influencer. Moron. Oh, a titanic moron, Maya confirmed without hesitation. A performance artist of pretension. But a creep? She considered it. No, not a creep. He was just deeply, passionately in love with his own brand. He didn't try to touch me. He just wanted me to be a compelling prop. It was dehumanizing, but not threatening. Just sad. Ethan nodded. And my karaoke queen. Hardcore Gen Z. She used the word vibe as a noun, verb, and adjective. A walking vibe, Maya supplied. Exactly. But a gold digger. Did she make you buy the bar? Maya asked. No. She bought me the consolation shot. Then no. Not a gold digger. Just a fervent evangelist for public humiliation as a bonding exercise. They had reached the same, strange conclusion as last time. The people they were selecting for each other were, in fact, exactly what they'd asked for. Not dangerous, not malicious, just spectacularly, uniquely wrong for them. Your algorithm is broken, Ethan declared, gesturing to her phone. It sees, appreciates fine dining, and suggests a guy who thinks food should have a soliloquy. And yours hears enjoys music, and interprets it as wants to become a meme in a duet, Maya shot back, pushing his phone toward him. We're speaking the right language, but the translation is catastrophic. Ethan picked up his phone, a new, more desperate idea forming. We need a filter, a human firewall. The swap isn't enough. We need to pre-interview. Maya's brow furrowed. Pre-interview? Yeah. Before a match even gets to you, I vet them. A preliminary screening. A guy knows how guys talk in the DMs. I can weed out the ones who lead with, hey, beautiful, or to their crypto portfolio. His eyes lit up with the thrill of a new system solution. And you can listen to the voice notes, read the bios. You can spot that my love language is karaoke warning signs from a mile away before I ever have to step on a stage again. Maya caught the vision, a slow grin spreading. We become the gatekeepers. We don't just swap apps. We man the gates. We protect each other from the kale tears and the forced matrimony via Lionel Richie. Exactly, Ethan said, tapping her screen. You send me the promising guys. I'll have a 5-minute chat. If he passes, then not a Brad test. Then he gets your profile. And you do the same. Screen out the interpretive dance enthusiasts. It was an escalation, a deepening of the entanglement. It was also, they both silently acknowledged, the most fun either of them had had in months. Deal, Maya said, already opening his Spark app, but I'm adding a new rule. If I have to eat another food that is also a metaphor, you owe me a real cheeseburger. And if I have to sing again, Ethan said, taking her phone, you owe me your silence for a full week. You couldn't handle my silence, Grumpy. Try me, saboteur. As they began to scroll, not on their own behalf, but as protectors, scouts, and guardians against the absurd, the cafe around them faded away. They were no longer just two people with disastrous love lives. They were co-authors, editors, and first responders in each other's romantic comedies. The Bean Scene Cafe had become their unofficial headquarters. Ethan sat with his laptop open, a neat flowchart glowing on the screen. Boxes, arrows, decision trees. It looked more like a debugging diagram than a roadmap to romance. So Ethan began, tapping the trackpad. Walk me through your preferences. Height, humor, career ambitions, tolerance for goat yoga. Maya leaned back, sipping her latte. You're seriously turning my love life into a flowchart. Efficiency, Ethan said deadpan. If a guy fails the sense of humor node, he doesn't advance to the long-term compatibility branch. Maya burst out laughing. Love isn't a flow that can be directed by a chart, Grumpy. It's messy. It's unpredictable. It's kale tears and karaoke disasters. She pulled out her notebook, flipping to a page covered in chaotic scribbles, doodles, and half-finished sentences. See? These are my notes on your preferences. Ethan squinted. That looks like a ransom letter. Exactly, Maya said, grinning. But it's the result that matters, not the notes. I'll choose the perfect girl for you, even if my system looks like chaos. Ethan scoffed, leaning back with arms crossed. Your perfect choice will pale in comparison to mine. My process-oriented approach ensures optimal outcomes. Maya smirked, tapping her pen against the notebook. Optimal outcomes? You sound like you're pitching a startup. Newsflash, romance isn't a product launch. He raised an eyebrow. And yet, my flowchart is infinitely more legible than your scribbles. She leaned forward, eyes sparkling. Legible doesn't mean lovable. Wait until you see the girl I pick for you. She'll be perfect. Ethan chuckled, shaking his head. Perfect by your chaotic standards. Which means she'll probably own 12 cats and a karaoke machine. Maya grinned wider. Better than your algorithm, serving me another Brad with 2DS. The playful tension hung between them, as rich and fragrant as the cafe's espresso. Maya didn't look away from Ethan's challenge, her grin softening into something more thoughtful. You know, she said, her voice dropping from its teasing lilt to a lower, more genuine tone. All that data in your little boxes? She gestured vaguely at his screen. It can't measure the way someone's eyes crinkle when they laugh at their own stupid joke, or the way they get quiet and serious when they talk about something they really love. Ethan's defensiveness seemed to melt, his shoulders relaxing. He looked from his pristine flowchart to her anarchic notebook. In your scribbles, he countered, but his voice was warm. Can't quantify shared values or long-term goal alignment. You can't doodle financial compatibility. Maybe not, she conceded, tracing a chaotic spiral on her page. But I can sketch the feeling of being surprised, of being seen. Your chart is all about filtering out the bad. My chaos. She met his gaze again. It's about being open to the good in places you'd never think to look. He was quiet for a long moment, the hum of his laptop the only sound between them. He looked genuinely intrigued, not dismissive. Show me, he said finally, his voice quiet. He reached out and tapped a corner of her notebook. Not the girl you'd pick. Show me how you'd pick. One of your scribbles. A faint blush touched Maya's cheeks. This felt more vulnerable than their usual sparring. She flipped a few pages, finding a section where words and arrows swirled around a small, quick sketch of a man's profile. Just the curve of a jaw, the suggestion of glasses. Okay, see this? She said, pointing to a phrase scrawled in the margin. Asks why, not what. That's from a profile where a guy said his hobby was bird watching. Most guys just list it. But in his bio, he wrote, I like figuring out why a sparrow chooses one branch over another. That's a mind that's curious. That looks for reasons. That's interesting. Ethan stared at the note, then at her. The clinical light from his screen reflected in his eyes, but his expression was anything but clinical. He looked captivated. Ah, he said softly. It wasn't a dismissal. It was an absorption. Your turn, Maya prompted, nudging his laptop with her pen. Show me a box. One single, perfect, logical box. Ethan scrolled, his fingers moving with practiced precision. He stopped on a node labeled conflict resolution style. It's not sexy, he admitted, but it's crucial. Does a person address issues directly, or do they shut down? Do they seek compromise? He tapped the box. This determines if a relationship survives the first real fight. It's the code review for the heart. Maya didn't laugh. She studied the box, then his focused face. You're trying to build something that lasts, she realized aloud, not just spark something that flares. Isn't that the point? He asked, and the question was utterly sincere, stripped of all its earlier sarcasm. They sat there, the flowchart and the ransom notebook lying side by side on the table, not as opposing forces, but as two different maps of the same uncharted territory. Your system finds the stable ground, Maya said. Your chaos finds the beautiful view, Ethan replied. A slow, understanding smile spread across both their faces. The rivalry was still there, but its edges had blurred into something like collaboration. into respect. I still think my pick will be better, Maya whispered, the challenge back in her eyes. But now it was an invitation. I know mine will be, Ethan whispered back, leaning in just slightly. But I have to admit, I'm kind of excited to see yours fail. Likewise, Grumpy. And as they turned back to their work, Ethan adding a new, handwritten note in the margin of his flowchart that read, "Look for the white," and Maya carefully drawing a neat little box around the word "safe" to fight with. The most important match of all was quietly, perfectly, making itself right there at the table. Maya's pick for Ethan. Ethan walked into the wine bar expecting disaster, but his date, Clara, was charming. She laughed at his dry jokes, asked about his work without glazing over, and even admitted she loved debugging puzzles. For the first half hour, Ethan was stunned. Maya might have actually nailed this. Then dessert arrived. Clara pulled out a notebook, color-coded tabs, bullet points, and began a full SWOT analysis of their compatibility. Strengths: we both like puzzles. Weaknesses: you don't meditate. Opportunities: joint yoga retreat. Threats: your sarcasm. Ethan blinked. Are you project managing our date? Clara smiled brightly. Of course. Love is just another deliverable. By the time she suggested a quarterly review schedule, Ethan was already texting Maya. Your perfect pick just tried to put me in Jira. Ethan's pick for Maya, Maya's date, Daniel, was everything Ethan's flowchart promised. Polite, witty, financially stable, and he even crinkled his eyes when he laughed. They strolled through the park, sharing stories. Maya thought, okay, maybe Grumpy's system works. Then Daniel stopped at a bench, pulled out a guitar, and began serenading her with a song he'd written about his ex. Don't worry, he said between verses. I always test new relationships by revisiting old wounds. It's my conflict resolution style. Maya froze. You're singing therapy? Daniel nodded earnestly. Music is how I process. You don't mind being my audience, do you? By the third chorus, Maya was texting Ethan. Your flowchart just booked me front row seats to his breakup tour. Back at the cafe, they met again, both looking shell-shocked. Maya dropped in her chair. Your pick sang to me. About his ex. With a guitar. Ethan groaned. Yours tried to schedule quarterly reviews of our relationship. With action items. They stared at each other, then burst out laughing, the rivalry dissolving into shared relief. But my system works. That guy must be an exception. Who could have guessed that he was still mourning for his ex? Ethan said while sipping his choco mocha. Well, mine was better, from what you have told me. She was good, but I think she might have blurred boundaries between her love and profession. Don't worry, my next choice will be better. Maya claimed. The weekend arrived, and with it, a new level of competitive determination. Ethan sighed. Ethan sat hunched over his laptop, the glow of chat windows illuminating his face. He had crafted a dozen different pretexts to vet Maya's potential matches. Hey man, quick question. What's your go-to conflict resolution style? Hypothetically, if your girlfriend forgot your birthday, would you sulk or laugh it off? Do you believe karaoke is a bonding exercise or cruel punishment? He logged each answer into his flowchart, color-coded and neatly aligned. When one guy replied with a 3-paragraph essay about crypto investments, Ethan flagged him red immediately. Another admitted he'd once ghosted someone for fun. Ethan muttered, disqualified, and moved on. By the end of the night, his chart looked like a polished algorithm. He leaned back, smug. This time, Maya's date will be flawless. Maya sighed. Meanwhile, Maya sprawled across her couch, phone in hand, scrolling through Instagram and Facebook like a detective. She wasn't just reading bios. She was diving into friend circles, tag photos, and comment threads. One girl posted motivational quotes every morning but had 3 ex-boyfriends still liking her selfies. Red flag. Another had a feed full of travel shots, but Maya noticed she never appeared with friends, only solo. 2 curated, Maya muttered. A third had messy, goofy group photos, laughing with friends, no filters. Maya circled her name with a flourish. Authentic. This one's for Ethan. Her notebook filled with doodles, arrows, and little sketches of personalities she'd pieced together from social media. It was chaotic, but it felt alive. By Sunday evening, she grinned at her scribbles. This time, Ethan's date will be perfect. Back at the cafe, they met again, both brimming with confidence. Ethan slid his laptop across the table. I vetted every guy through DMs. My system is airtight. Maya pushed her notebook forward, pages bursting with messy notes and doodles. I've stalked every girl's socials. My chaos is bulletproof. They locked eyes, the rivalry sharper than ever, but tinged with excitement. Next weekend, Ethan declared, we test again. And this time, no disasters. Maya smirked. Prepare to eat your flowchart, grumpy. Prepare to drown in your scribbles, saboteur. The barista, overhearing, shook his head. You two sound like you're planning a war. They both laughed, but beneath the banter, the stakes had shifted. This wasn't just about proving a system. It was about proving they could choose for each other. Time for another short promo. Novella Station's rom-coms are proof. The algorithm may fail, but banter never does. Chapter 3. The War Room. The week that followed was a silent, feverish arms race. The Bean Scene Cafe became a library of concentrated tension. They occupied their usual table, back to back, each hunched over their respective arsenals. The only sounds were the furious click of Ethan's keyboard, the frantic scratch of Maya's pen, and the occasional sigh of mutual frustration. Ethan had escalated to a multi-tab system. His flowchart had spawned subdiagrams, linked to spreadsheets of DM transcripts. He created a points-based rating system. Uses emojis excessively, -2. Asked a follow-up question, +5. Mentions vibes unironically, automatic disqualification. He was building a fortress of logic, brick by digital brick. Maya's notebook had metastasized. Pages were taped together, creating a sprawling mind map of interconnected lives. She'd moved beyond Instagram to LinkedIn for career ego checks and Spotify for vibe-based forensics. A playlist full of sad boy ballads was a veto. She was weaving a net of intuition, thread by chaotic thread. On Friday, they declared a ceasefire for the final briefing. His name is Alex, Ethan announced, turning his laptop. A clean, handsome profile smiled back. 28. Architectural historian. His conflict resolution test scored a 9.2 out of 10. He believes in direct but compassionate dialogue. His answer to the karaoke question was only after 3 drinks, and only if everyone else is worse. He is, Ethan concluded with immense satisfaction, optimized. Maya studied the photo. Nice smile. Kind eyes. No visible red flags in Ethan's pristine data fields. A flicker of something, not doubt, but a strange, hollow feeling passed through her. She pushed it down. He looks great. He is. Ethan couldn't hide his triumph. Your turn. Maya took a steadying breath. Her name is Lena. She flipped her notebook to a page covered in vibrant, messy sketches around a printed photo of a woman with a bright, genuine laugh. 29. Botanical illustrator. Her socials are a mess of plant dye experiments, failed sourdough starters, and pictures of her friends making stupid faces. She commented on an ex's wedding photo with, "You look happy, glad you found your person." No bitterness. She listens to funk music and true crime podcasts. She is, Maya said, meeting his gaze, authentically wonderful. Ethan looked at the joyful chaos of Maya's research. It was the antithesis of his process, and yet the portrait it painted was undeniably compelling. The hollow feeling echoed in his own chest. She seems really good. She is. They handed each other's phones back. The match is set. The air was thick with unspoken words. Good luck, Maya said, her voice quieter than usual. You too, Ethan replied, not meeting her eyes. The test. Maya's date with Alex. Alex was, as promised, perfect. He held doors, remembered details from her profile, and explained the history of the building they were in with charming passion. He was polite, witty, and his eyes did indeed crinkle nicely when he laughed. He asked thoughtful questions and listened intently to her answers. It was the most pleasant, seamless, and utterly sterile 2 hours of Maya's life. She felt like she was being expertly interviewed for a position she didn't remember applying for. Girlfriend, optimal candidate. There were no surprises. No awkward moments. No spark. Just a smooth, uninterrupted flow of compatibility. As they said a perfectly cordial goodbye, Maya's heart sank. Ethan's system had worked flawlessly. It had produced a man who was, in every measurable way, right for her. And it was completely wrong. Ethan's date with Lena. Lena was a whirlwind of genuine warmth. She spilled a little of her drink, laughed loudly at her own joke, and immediately bonded with Ethan over the shared trauma of poorly coded dating app interfaces. She showed him pictures of her disastrous indoor herb garden. She was authentic, funny, and wonderfully present. And Ethan was bored, not by her, but by the lack of friction. There was no puzzle to solve, no dry wit to parry, no hidden layer of grumpy sweetness to coax out. Lena was an open book, beautifully written, and he missed the chaotic marginalia, the defiant, inscrutable handwriting of another. The date was lovely. It was also a mirror that showed him a glaring emptiness. The aftermath. They met at the cafe at dawn, both unable to sleep. The rivalry was gone, burned away in the cold light of their success. Maya spoke first, staring into her cold coffee. Alex was perfect. Your system is a masterpiece. Ethan didn't look up from the table. Lena was wonderful. Your chaos, it finds gold. A long, heavy silence stretched between them, filled with the hum of the refrigerator and the weight of their shared, devastating victory. He asked for a second date, Maya whispered. So did she, Ethan replied. They finally looked at each other, and the truth was there, naked and undeniable in the early morning light. The hollow feeling had a name. The emptiness had a shape. I don't want to go, they said in unison. The shock of speaking together broke the tension. A faint, sad smile touched Maya's lips. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, his flowchart perfect world crumbling. Your system works, Maya said, her voice thick. It found me a perfectly compatible human. Your chaos works, Ethan echoed. It found me a genuinely lovely one. He reached out slowly and closed the lid of his laptop with a soft, final click. She slid her chaotic notebook to the edge of the table, away from them. The flaw, Ethan said, his eyes fixed on hers, isn't in the system or the chaos. Maya nodded, a single understanding breath escaping her. The flaw is in the premise. The unspoken words finally broke the surface. The best match she could ever find is already sitting at the table. Ethan's hand rested beside his closed laptop. Maya's fingers lay near her abandoned notebook. The space between them was no longer a battlefield, but a bridge. So, Ethan said, his voice rough, what's the next node in the flowchart for this? Maya's smile returned, real and wobbly. I think this is where my scribbles take over. He reached for her hand. Her fingers tangled with his, a connection no algorithm could have predicted, no amount of social media stalking could have guaranteed. Messy, imperfect, and absolutely, irrefutably right. Epilogue 4 years later. The backyard was strung with fairy lights, laughter spilling out into the evening air. A cake covered in pastel frosting sat at the center of the table, candles flickering as little Sarah clapped her hands, her curls bouncing with excitement. Maya leaned down to whisper, "Make a wish, birthday girl," and Sarah squeezed her eyes shut, blowing out the candles with all the determination of a 4-year-old. The crowd of friends and family cheered, phones snapping photos, voices overlapping in joy. Ethan stood nearby, holding a tray of lemonade, his expression soft as he watched his daughter beam. He caught Maya's eye across the table, and for a moment, the chaos of the party faded into something quieter. Just the two of them, remembering. One of their friends, balancing a paper plate piled high with cake, grinned and asked, "So, how did you two meet anyway? You always look like you've got some secret joke between you." Maya and Ethan turned to each other, the same smile tugging at both their lips. It was the smile of people who had survived kale tears, karaoke engagements, goat yoga, vision boards, and flowcharts. The smile of people who had discovered that the best match wasn't in any app, but in the messy, unexpected scribbles of life. Maya raised her glass. "It's a long story," she said, eyes twinkling. Ethan chuckled, sliding an arm around her shoulders. "And trust me, You wouldn't believe half of it. They shared a look, one that carried 4 years of laughter, late-night banter, and the quiet miracle of Sarah's giggle. The friend laughed, shaking their head, and the party carried on. But for Maya and Ethan, the answer was simple, unspoken, and perfectly clear. They had met in chaos, found each other in logic, and built a life in love. Side effects of watching Novella Station may include uncontrollable laughter, raised eyebrows, and sudden cravings for kale tears. If you survived this episode, tell us what you thought in the comments. And subscribe. It's the only algorithm guaranteed to deliver love, drama, and comedy straight to your feed.